China is developing its amphibious fleet and building new types of ships. A prominent place in these processes is occupied by small amphibious hovercraft, Type 728, the Chinese version of the Soviet project. 12322 Bison. Recently it became known about the completion of the construction of 2 more pennants of this type according to a revised project. At the time of the collapse of the USSR, the Navy had 8 ready-made Zubrovs and several corps at various stages of construction. The more planned, along with unfinished ships and documentation, went to independent Ukraine. She was able to complete and introduce a number of pennants into the Navy, but later they began to write off.
Subscribe to the channel, it will be more interesting. Thank you in advance.
In 2009, Ukrainian shipbuilders received an order from China. The contract, worth $315 million, provided for the delivery of 4 Zubrovs. The first 2 were planned to be built in the Crimea according to the modified Project 958 Bison. The other 2 were going to be built at one of the Chinese enterprises. The Chinese version of the Soviet Project 12322 is known under the designation Type 728. The first Ukrainian-built Zubr entered the Chinese Navy in April 2013 and received tail number 3325. At the end of 2015, the Chinese Navy received a second imported ship and assigned it the number 3326. 2 ships of their own Chinese construction, 3327 and 3328, began service later, in 2017-18. The Chinese-Ukrainian contract provided for the construction of 4 ships of the project. 12,322/958/728. The desire of the parties to continue cooperation was not reported, not to mention the conclusion of relevant agreements. However, by now it has become clear that China was planning to continue construction, now without foreign aid. Chinese shipbuilders probably finalized the existing Type 728 project and started construction at the turn of the decade. The existence of a third Chinese-made Zubr became known only in May 2023. This ship, which received tail number 3260, was noticed in one of the Chinese ports. Outwardly, it practically does not differ from the 4 previous pennants. Probably, inside it also repeats other ships of the project. 728/12322. In early June, a photo of another Chinese ship with the number 3261 appeared on social networks. This ship is already going to sea and, at least, is at the testing stage. 3261, in its exterior and equipment as a whole, is similar to its predecessors, but has differences related to electronic weapons. Technical features. The small landing hovercraft is designed to solve the entire spectrum of tasks associated with amphibious assaults. It is capable of transporting personnel, equipment and weapons, landing troops on an equipped or unequipped coast, and also providing fire support. The use of an air cushion improves driving performance, and also allows you to go ashore and move on flat terrain, overcoming some obstacles. The design of the ship is mainly made of aluminum-magnesium alloys, which gave the desired strength while reducing weight. The basis of the design is a rectangular pontoon hull. Attached to it, in a circle, is a rubber air cushion guard, and on top of it there is a setting with useful volumes. On its roof deck, a cabin is placed. Sustainer engines are located in the stern. The internal volume of the superstructure is divided into 3 longitudinal compartments. The central one serves as a tank deck. Access to it is through the bow folding ramp. In the side compartments there are cockpits and cabins for the crew and troops, elements of the propulsion system, etc. The total length of the Zubr, according to the original design, exceeds 57 m, the width is 25 m. The standard displacement is 555 tons. The ship is operated by a crew of 27 people, and has an autonomy of 5 days. The propulsion system includes 5 DP-71 gas turbine engines with a capacity of 10,000 horsepower each. 2 engines drive the NO-10 blower units, which create an air cushion. 3 other engines with propellers in the annular channels provide propulsion and maneuvering. There are also 2 gas turbine generators with a capacity of 100 kilowatts each. The maximum speed of the Zubr/Type 728 is 63 knots. The economic speed of 55 knots provides a cruising range of 300 nautical miles. The maximum load of the ship reaches 150 tons. It is capable of taking on board and landing up to 3 main tanks, up to 8 to 10 Soviet-style infantry fighting vehicles or armored personnel carriers with troops, or up to 500 people. Personnel, with the placement of most of the fighters on the tank deck. The Soviet Zubrs had a complete set of electronic weapons for navigation and problem solving. There were several radar stations of various types and purposes, a communications complex, navigation aids, an electronic warfare complex, etc. Apparently, the Type 728 received Chinese-made equipment with all these functions. They also changed the design of the mast, from a truss to a solid one. In addition, optical electronic stations were installed on the roof of the cabin, with the exception of the last ship, on which there is a fire guidance radar. Project ships. 12322 received rocket and artillery weapons. On the deck there was a pair of retractable launchers of the A-22 Fire multiple launch rocket system with 22 rounds on each. Behind them were 2 AK-630M assault rifles. Carry a similar set of weapons, but made from locally produced units. Each MDKVP Type 728, depending on the assigned tasks, transports from a company to a battalion of Marines with weapons and, under certain restrictions, with equipment. In this case, the landing can be carried out on the most convenient section of the unequipped coast, and the landing party receives artillery and rocket fire support. The advantages of such a landing ship are obvious. A formation of 4 such ships is capable of landing 1 or 2 battalions of Marines with armored vehicles, artillery, etc. Such forces, with the correct organization of the landing force, are able to capture a bridgehead and ensure the approach of the main forces. At the same time, the Chinese Navy is receiving new ships, and their quantitative and qualitative amphibious landing capabilities are gradually growing. Using the Soviet project and the experience of the shipbuilding enterprise inherited by Ukraine, China was able to get the ships it needed and the technology for their production. Thanks to this, Chinese enterprises can now independently build and modernize Soviet-designed ships and use the potential of this project.